Necromancy and death magic are among the most misunderstood and feared branches of the occult, often associated with malevolent sorcery, graveyard rituals, and the summoning of restless spirits. These practices have been vilified in religious doctrine and sensationalized in popular culture. However, beyond the misconceptions lie a profound spiritual system that engages with the mysteries of death, transformation, and the unseen world. Necromancy, in its true essence, is the art of communicating with spirits, whether by guidance, knowledge, or intervention, while death magic encompasses a broader spectrum of practices that involve working with the energies of decay, transition, and the afterlife. Throughout history, necromantic traditions have existed in cultures across the world, from the ancestral veneration of ancient Egypt and China to the spirit working traditions of voodoo and European grimoires. Death magic is not merely about summoning the dead, but also about embracing the lessons of mortality, understanding the cycles of existence, and wielding the power that resides in the liminal spaces between life and the beyond. Those who walk this path do so not only to seek knowledge from the spirits, but also to explore the deeper mysteries of their own soul and destinies. Today's video will examine the historical, philosophical, and practical dimensions of necromancy and death magic, exploring their role in spirituality and occultism. It will dispel misconceptions, delve into ethical considerations, and highlight the significance of these practices in contemporary magical traditions. Far from being simply a means to command spirits, necromancy and death magic serve as gateways to wisdom, transformation, and an intimate understanding of the great unknown. Before we get started, I do want to take a moment to thank all of the wonderful people who have signed up for a tier on my Patreon. It helps to keep the lights on and the content flowing. If you would like to assist and support this channel, please head on over to Patreon. The link is in the description or here on the screen, and choose a tier that suits you. Necromancy and death magic have existed across cultures and eras, evolving based on societal beliefs. Often feared as dark arts, these practices were historically seen as means to access wisdom, power, and the connection between the living and the dead. Necromantic rites have ranged from divination and ancestor veneration to spirit summoning for guidance or assistance. The earliest necromantic traditions emerged in Mesopotamia, Egypt, Greece, and Rome. Mesopotamians conducted rituals to communicate with the dead, offering food and drink to spirits. In Egypt, death was seen as a transformation, and funerary rites ensured safe passage into the afterlife, though magicians also sought the dead's counsel through dream divination. In Greece, necromancy was practiced at sites known as necromantia, where spirits were summoned for guidance, as seen in Homer's Odyssey. Romans, though suspicious of necromancy, recorded instances of witches raising the dead for divination, as depicted by Lucan's Pharsalia. Christianity reshaped attitudes toward necromancy, often equating it with demonic summoning. Many of the medieval grimoires contain spirit evocation rites, but frame them as dealings with infernal beings. Despite its condemnation, scholars and clerics secretly studied necromantic arts. Renaissance magicians, such as John Dee, sought spirit communication within Christian and Neoplatonic frameworks, attempting to distinguish angelic contact from forbidden necromantic practices. In African spiritual traditions like voodoo and Palo Mayombe, working with the dead is central to religious and magical practices. Ancestors are honored as guides and protectors, with rituals involving offerings and spirit possession. In Chinese traditions, ancestor veneration ensures harmony between the living and the dead, with practices such as joss paper burning and spirit communication through mediums. Shamanic cultures across Siberia and the Americas also viewed the dead as active participants in the spiritual world, consulting spirits through trance work and ancestral altars. The rise of spiritualism in the 19th and 20th centuries brought necromantic practices into mainstream society through seances and spirit boards, where many sought contact with deceased loved ones. Today, necromancy and death magic persist in occult circles, blending historical grimoires, folk traditions, and personal interpretations. The renewed focus on ancestral veneration and spirit work highlights humanity's enduring relationship with death and the unseen world. Throughout history, necromancy and death magic have adapted to changing beliefs, reflecting humanity's evolving dialogue with mortality and the afterlife. Rather than fading into obscurity, these traditions continue to shape spiritual practices, offering insight into the mysteries of existence. At its core, death magic is not merely about summoning spirits or engaging in rituals associated with the dead. It is a profound exploration of the nature of mortality, transformation, and the liminal spaces that exist between life and the so-called afterlife. It is a practice that challenges the fear of death, seeking wisdom in the mysteries of decay, dissolution, and rebirth. Unlike mainstream spiritual traditions that often present death as an endpoint or a transition to a distant, unknown realm, practitioners of death magic view it as an integral part of existence, one that can be understood, navigated, and even worked with in a magical and spiritual sense. Death magic views death not as an end but as transformation. Many spiritual traditions, from reincarnation beliefs to nature based cycles, reflect this idea. Decay is not destruction but the recycling of energy. Just as organic matter nourishes new life, consciousness transitions to new states. For the magician, death is a teacher. Meditating on impermanence fosters detachment from material concerns, a clearer sense of purpose, and an awareness of unseen forces. Practices like memento mori serve as reminders of mortality, cultivating a respect for life and dispelling illusions of permanence. Death magic operates in liminal spaces between life and death, material and immaterial, seen and unseen. Practitioners work in transitional places like graveyards or crossroads, where residual energies enhance connection to spirits and transformation forces. This liminality extends to consciousness. Altered states, achieved through meditation, trance, or ritual fasting, allow communication with the dead or symbolic deaths as initiatory experiences. Such ritual deaths strip away old identities, ushering in insight and power. Ancestral veneration is central to death magic, focusing on respect and continuity rather than sensationalized necromancy. The dead are seen as guides, not separate from the living, but offering wisdom and protection. Practices include setting up altars, making offerings, and engaging in ritual dialogue. Some practitioners extend this work beyond their bloodline, honoring historical figures or spirits aligned with their own path. The key is reciprocity, offering respect in exchange for guidance rather than commanding spirits. Because it deals with the dead, death magic carries ethical considerations. Many traditions emphasize strict guidelines for spirit work, ensuring respect and preventing harm. Consent is crucial. Just as one wouldn't demand favors from the living, spirits should be asked, not coerced. Working with human remains, such as bones or graveyard dirt, requires both spiritual and legal awareness. Disrespecting the dead, whether through careless ritual work or desecration, risks spiritual consequences and disrupts balance between the worlds. Despite its dark reputation, death magic fosters empowerment, transformation, and deep spiritual insight. Confronting mortality removes fear, encouraging resilience and appreciation for life. Practitioners learn to navigate both spiritual and personal transitions, understanding when to release, transform, or embrace inevitable endings as gateways to renewal. At its core, death magic is a practice of change, requiring wisdom, respect, and courage. It offers profound insight into life, the self, and the unseen, teaching that death is not an end, but part of an eternal cycle. Those who embrace its mysteries gain deep contemplation, personal evolution, and spiritual connection, walking a path few dare to seek. Necromancy and death magic are not merely abstract philosophies, but living practices that require knowledge, skill, and reverence. The practical aspects of working with the dead encompass a range of rituals, tools, techniques, and ethical considerations, each designed to facilitate communication with spirits, harness the energies of death, and cultivate an understanding of mortality. These practices vary across traditions, but they all share a common goal: to establish a meaningful relationship with the forces of death and the spirits who dwell beyond the veil. Before engaging in necromantic or death magical work, the practitioner must undergo personal and ritual preparation. This involves developing a mindset that is both respectful and resilient, as working with the dead can be unsettling and, in some cases, dangerous. Many traditions stress the importance of purification before approaching the spirits, as this prevents unwanted influences from attaching themselves to the practitioner. Common preparatory practice may include cleansing rituals, or the using smoke, salt, or ritual baths to remove negative energies and attune the practitioner to the liminal space of the dead. It may also include meditation on mortality, contemplating death through visualization or exposure to symbols of impermanence, such as skulls, decaying objects, or graveyards, to desensitize fear and build a connection with death's presence. We also have protection rituals, creating protective boundaries through circles, wards, or talismans to ensure that only invited spirits may enter the sacred space. And also offerings to the dead. Before requesting aid, offerings such as candles, food, alcohol, or incense may be given to acknowledge the presence of spirits and show gratitude. By preparing both physically and mentally, the magician ensures that their practice is conducted safely and effectively, preventing unwanted spiritual interference or harm. Like any magical practice, necromancy and death magic employ specific tools to focus energy and enhance communication with spirits. These tools often have symbolic or practical significance and may be consecrated for use solely in death-related rites. You may find some people use skulls and bones. The use of bones, whether human or animal, is one of the most ancient necromantic practices. Skulls, in particular, are believed to act as conduits for spirit communication. While some traditions use actual remains, others work with symbolic representations such as ceramic or resin skulls. Depending on where you are in the world, there are some obvious legal implications to having human or certain animal remains in your possession. So check the law in your own area and make sure you are getting ethically obtained remains. There's also the use of graveyard dirt, which is earth taken from a grave, which is considered to be imbued with the essence of the dead. The choice of grave is crucial. Dirt from the resting place of a wise elder might be used for knowledge, while that from a warrior grave could enhance protection. The collection of graveyard dirt is always obtained after asking and receiving confirmation, and always accompanied by offerings to the spirit of the grave. There is the spirit vessel, where some traditions use a designated object, such as a jar, box, or bowl, to house spirits for divination or ongoing magical work. The spirit vessel is ritually prepared and treated with great care to maintain a respectful relationship with the entity within. and also the necromantic wand or staff, which some people use. A staff made from wood associated with death, such as yew, cypress, or willow, may be used to direct energy. Some practitioners prefer wands carved from human or animal bones, believing them to hold a direct link to the dead. These tools serve to bridge the gap between the living and the dead, offering tangible connections to the unseen world. However, they are not mandatory. Many practitioners work with nothing more than their voice, will, and intention. One of the central goals of necromancy is the ability to communicate with the dead. This is achieved through various methods, each requiring different levels of skill and sensitivity. One of the safest and most natural methods of spirit contact is through dreams. Necromancers often request the presence of a specific spirit before sleep and keep a dream journal to record any messages received. Dreams and visions provide a subtle yet powerful means of communication, allowing spirits to convey guidance without the risks associated with direct summoning. Scrying is another technique involving the use of a black mirror, a bowl of water, or a polished obsidian. The practitioner gazes into the reflective surface to receive messages from the dead. This method requires patience and the ability to interpret symbolic visions, as spirits often communicate through imagery rather than direct speech. Automatic writing allows the magician to enter a light trance, letting their hand move freely over paper to record words, phrases, or symbols dictated by the spirits. This practice requires balance of receptivity and control, ensuring that the messages received are not influenced by the magician's own subconscious. Seances and spirit calling involve structured rituals designed to summon and communicate with specific spirits. These ceremonies may include ritual chants, carefully arranged candle placements, and sacred symbols to create a focused space for interaction. The success of a seance depends on the practitioner's ability to maintain concentration and navigate the energies present. Some necromancers possess natural mediumistic abilities, enabling them to hear, see, or feel the presence of spirits directly. Others cultivate the skill through meditation, ritual, and dedicated practice. Mediumship can offer profound insights, but requires strong psychic boundaries to prevent overwhelming or deceptive interactions. These methods require discernment, as not all spirits encountered are benevolent. Practitioners must be prepared to set firm boundaries, dismiss disruptive entities, and engage in banishing or cleansing rituals when necessary. Communication with the dead is a powerful art, but it demands caution, respect, and experience to be conducted safely. Beyond communication, necromancers engage in rituals that serve different purposes, from seeking knowledge to assisting spirits in their transition. Petitioning the dead for guidance is a common practice in necromancy. This rite typically involves making an energetic connection with the spirit and speaking to them as one would to a wise elder. The necromancer seeks advice on a specific matter, trusting the spirit's wisdom and perspective beyond the veil of death. Crossroads rituals make use of liminal spaces, as the crossroads is a place of transition, often used in death magic to petition spirits for favors. Offerings are left at the intersection, and the magician may recite an incantation requesting assistance. This practice aligns with traditions that view crossroads as a meeting point between worlds where spirits are more accessible. Some necromancers act as psychopomps, guiding spirits to the afterlife or helping restless souls find peace. Funerary rites and psychopomp work may involve prayer, ritual purification, and offerings meant to ease the spirit's passage. These practices reflect an ancient and universal role found in many cultures, where certain individuals assist the dead in transitioning to the next stage of existence. It should just be noted in this reference to psychopomp that are many people that believe that Only a divine spirit, a deity, can be a psychopompic spirit, whereas others believe that humans can also be psychopomps. The idea that only deities can be psychopompic spirits is mainly due to the fact that a living human can only go to a certain point, and then they cannot pass any further, whereas the deity is the one that takes the soul across to the so-called other side. Now, not all spirits encountered are friendly, and some may be malevolent or disruptive. In such cases, practitioners may perform banishing rituals to expel aggressive spirits that seek to harm the living. These rites require strong willpower and a clear understanding of protective magic to ensure the practitioner's safety and maintain balance between the realms of the living and the dead. Some traditions include symbolic death and rebirth rituals, where the practitioner undergoes a controlled experience of dying and being reborn with new knowledge or empowerment. These rituals can be intense and are usually reserved for advanced practitioners. By simulating the journey through death and returning transformed, the magician gains deeper insight into mortality and the mysteries beyond. Necromancy and death magic demand responsibility. Unlike working with elemental or planetary forces, spirits of the dead were once living beings with memories, emotions, and personal histories. Exploiting the dead for personal gain, desecrating burial sites, or forcing spirits to serve against their will is considered unethical and can have severe spiritual consequences. Respect is paramount. The dead should be treated as ancestors, guides, and teachers, not as tools or servants. Regular offerings, expressions of gratitude, and adherence to agreed upon boundaries ensure a harmonious relationship between the magician and the spirits they work with. Furthermore, the emotional and psychological impact of engaging with death should not be underestimated. Prolonged exposure to death energy without grounding can lead to depression, detachment from life, or an unhealthy obsession with the afterlife. Practitioners should balance their work with activities that affirm life, such as spending time in nature, engaging in creative pursuits, and maintaining strong personal relationships. Necromancy and death magic, when approached with knowledge and respect, can be powerful tools for spiritual evolution, wisdom, and transformation. By mastering the arts of spirit communication, working with the liminal forces of decay and rebirth, and honoring the dead, the practitioner gains a deeper understanding of the mysteries that define existence itself. However, this path is not for the faint of heart. It demands patience, courage, and a willingness to embrace both the darkness and the light inherent in the cycle of life and death. Necromancy and death magic, perhaps more than any other form of occult practice, demand a high degree of ethical awareness and moral responsibility. Working with the dead is not simply a matter of performing rituals or summoning spirits. It is an interaction with beings who once lived, thought, felt, and experienced the complexities of existence. Just as one would not demand favors from the living without consent or respect, the same principle applies to the spirits of the deceased. Ethical necromantic practice ensures that the bonds between the living and the dead remain harmonious rather than exploitative or destructive. Ethical necromancy prioritizes respect for spirits' autonomy. Many traditions, especially ancestor veneration, teach that the dead should not be disturbed without cause. Calling upon spirits for personal gain or amusement is disrespectful. Instead of commanding spirits, practitioners make offerings and prayers, honoring their choice to engage or remain silent. Forcing spirits to appear or act against their will is unethical and risky. Just as coercion breeds resentment among the living, it does so with the dead. Practitioners who use force often experience hauntings, curses, or spiritual exhaustion. Ethical boundaries foster beneficial rather than hostile relationships with spirits. Using bones, ashes, or graveyard dirt in necromancy raises moral concerns. Some traditions, like Palo Mayombe, incorporate human remains with strict protocols, but modern practitioners must consider legality and ethics. Desecrating graves or using remains without permission is widely condemned. Ethical practitioners obtain materials legally, often from medical or academic sources. Even animal bones are treated with reverence, acknowledging their spirit. Graveyard dirt, a common tool, should only be taken with permission, often granted through offerings and communication with the spirit of the grave. Not all spirits should be contacted or trusted. Some rest peacefully, while others remain unsettled due to trauma or unfinished business. Contacting spirits in places marked by suffering, such as battlefields, asylums, or execution sites, can attract confusion or malevolent entities. Repeated exposure to death energies can impact mental well being. An obsession with necromancy may sever a practitioner from life's vitality. Ethical necromancy requires balance, engaging with both the dead and the living. Grounding, reflection, and maintaining healthy relationships prevent practitioners from becoming consumed by death energies. A common ethical concern is the exploitation of spirits. Some magicians seek to bind spirits for personal gain, treating them as tools rather than sentient beings. Ethical practitioners prioritize mutual respect over servitude. Conversely, practitioners must guard against being manipulated by spirits. Not all are truthful or benevolent. Some deceive or drain energy. Verifying a spirit's identity through divination and repeated encounters prevents deception. Discernment is vital to avoid falling prey to parasitic entities. Ancestral veneration maintains relationships with familial spirits through offerings and prayers. These spirits, invested in their descendants' well being, offer guidance and protection. Necromantic summoning calls upon unrelated spirits, including historical figures or souls with specific knowledge. These spirits are more unpredictable and may not act in the practitioner's interest. Ethical necromancers approach them cautiously, ensuring interactions remain balanced, avoiding dependency or coercion. Properly concluding spirit interactions is essential. Just as one does not leave a conversation abruptly, spirits should not be dismissed without acknowledgement. Practitioners should ensure that spirits return to rest peacefully rather than lingering disruptively. Cleansing rituals help sever lingering attachments. Common practices include the use of salt or blessed water for purification, smoke cleansing with rosemary, mugwort, or myrrh, and if necessary, banishing rites to ensure spirits return to their rightful place. Offerings, often given, belong to the spirits. They should not be reused and must be disposed of respectfully, often by burial or leaving them at crossroads. Modern necromancers must dispel misconceptions. Popular media often portrays necromancy as malevolent, reinforcing fears that working with the dead is unnatural. Ethical practitioners counter this by demonstrating its spiritual depth and healing potential. Teachers and mentors bear responsibility for guiding students with mindfulness and ethical integrity. Encouraging responsible practices prevents reckless or harmful interactions with the dead. Ethical necromancy offers wisdom, healing, and transformation, but demands respect and responsibility. The dead are not tools, but spirits deserving honor and reciprocity. Ethical practitioners build relationships with spirits, ensuring interactions remain beneficial. By respecting spirits' autonomy, maintaining ritual protocols, and balancing spiritual and physical life, necromancers walk their path with integrity. Rather than fearing the dead, they recognize them as teachers, allies, and reminders of life's greatest mystery, and one we will all one day encounter. In an era dominated by technological advancement and scientific reasoning, necromancy and death magic continue to hold a place within modern spiritual practices. Far from being relics of a bygone age, these arts have evolved, adapting to contemporary belief systems. personal spiritual exploration, and even digital spaces. Whether through ancestor veneration, spirit work, or the study of death's mysteries, necromancy provides practitioners with a profound connection to the past, an understanding of mortality, and a means of engaging with the unseen. Necromancy plays a vital role in reclaiming death as a natural and sacred process. In modern Western societies, death is often sanitized and hidden, fostering avoidance rather than understanding. This detachment fuels existential anxiety, making death something to be postponed rather than embraced. Practitioners of death magic counter this cultural avoidance by confronting mortality through meditation, spirit communion, and ritual. By acknowledging death as a transition rather than an end, they cultivate acceptance and purpose, reducing fear and deepening spiritual awareness. One of the most widespread forms of necromantic work today is ancestor veneration, a practice rooted in many cultures. Even outside religious traditions, it is experiencing a revival. Common practices include creating ancestral altars with offerings and photographs, honoring the dead through prayer and ritual, and also speaking their names to keep their memory alive. Rather than coercing spirits, this practice nurtures a loving relationship with our loved ones and teachers. Many find that ancestor work provides stability and identity, reconnecting them to a sense of belonging. Modern necromantic practice often manifests through mediumship and spiritualism. While historical necromancy involved ritual summoning, today's spiritualists focus on spirit communication through trance states, channeling, and intuitive perception. The 19th century spiritist movements, such as those influenced by Allan Kardec, helped shape the belief that spirits continue to evolve and communicate. Contemporary practitioners may use divination tools like pendulums, spirit boards, and automatic writing, trance states, and guided meditation to receive messages, or even seances or personal rituals to engage with the dead. Contrary to horror media's portrayal of spirit work as dangerous, many practitioners experience profound healing and wisdom through these interactions, bringing closure, insight, and creative inspiration. Beyond spirit work, necromancy serves as a tool for personal transformation. Death symbolism is used in rites to embrace change, release the past, and enter new phases of existence. Practitioners engage in such things as shadow work, which is the integration of hidden aspects of the self, rites of passage, symbolizing the death of an old self and rebirth into a new identity, and also meditation on impermanence or fostering presence and awareness. Thus, death magic is not just about working with spirits, but embracing life cycles, cultivating resilience, and deepening connection to existence. Today's necromancers serve roles beyond ritual magicians. They may be guides for the grieving, helping others navigate loss. They may be spiritual intermediaries, assisting restless spirits, or even educators, reclaiming death as a part of life rather than a taboo. As mainstream culture continues to fear death, necromancers stand at the threshold, ensuring that the wisdom of the past is not forgotten, the dead are honored, and life is understood in its full complexity. Necromancy is not an archaic relic, but a living tradition, evolving alongside human culture. It provides healing, wisdom, and transformation, bridging the living and the dead, past and future, fear and acceptance. Whether through ancestor veneration, spirit communication, or personal rites of transformation, modern necromancers embrace death's mysteries, not as something to fear, but as something to honor and understand. Necromancy and death magic, often misunderstood and shrouded in fear, remain profound spiritual practices that bridge the living and the dead, or the known and the unknown. From their ancient roots in cultural traditions to their evolving presence in contemporary spirituality, these arts continue to serve as a means of understanding mortality, honoring ancestors, and seeking wisdom beyond the physical world. Far from being solely about summoning spirits or wielding dark forces, necromancy is a practice of remembrance, transformation, and connection. By engaging with the realities of death, practitioners cultivate a deeper awareness of life. They confront impermanence, embrace change, and find meaning in existence beyond material boundaries. Whether through ritual, ancestor veneration, spirit communication, or personal reflection on mortality, necromancy offers a path that is both mystical and deeply human. As society continues to evolve, so too will the ways in which necromancy and death magic are practiced. From traditional rites to modern spiritual innovation, the art of working with death is not fading into obscurity, it is adapting, reshaping itself to meet the needs of each generation. In embracing death, we do not diminish life, rather, we enhance it, finding within its mysteries the keys to understanding our own existence.